Episode 289.
Being able to just be who we are, to be able to admit that we're imperfect. And I think that's a big one, especially for business leaders. We're talking about the mistakes. And, I can't speak for everyone, but I know I can speak for myself that I hold myself to a pretty high standard of accountability. And when I make mistakes, like the big dollar mistake that I made, 10 years ago, man, I am my own worst enemy and my own worst critic. And the longer I keep myself down there and then have to try and build up all these walls of protection, if you will, to let everybody see that I'm perfect, man, that's a hard life to live.
Welcome, aftermarketers, to Remarkable Results Radio. Listen to learn just one thing from today's episode on your journey to remarkable results. Welcome, aftermarketers throughout North America and around the world. Happy to usher in the very first episode in the new year 2018 on the most powerful aftermarket resource in the audio realm. Hey, today's episode 289 is with Tony Adams, Vice President of Operations at Weaver's Auto Center in Shawnee, Kansas. Hey, so glad to have the support of Federal Mogul Motor Parts and Garage Gurus. Looking for serious technical training and support? Online, on-site, and on demand? Garage Gurus is everything you need to know. Find out more. fmgaragegurus.com. It's great to hear from so many aftermarket professionals that write to me via email or through direct messages and social media. I enjoy hearing about your favorite episodes, what you'd like to hear more of, and even topics for Town Hall Academies. I want to encourage you to continue to communicate. The podcast continues to bring an enormous value stream to aftermarket professionals because I listen to you and have grown the content library and website features because you have offered ideas, insights, and suggestions. Keep them coming. Find me at carm@remarkableresults.biz. And the network of continued listeners builds every week. I'm honored to have new Facebook friends, Joe Hoyle, Irvin Bowman, Daniel Costa, and David Roman. And my latest LinkedIn connections, Jason Hayes, Randy Gosson, and Beth Hall. Welcome all. Find the podcast social links at remarkableresults.biz/social. Now meet Tony Adams, owner and vice president of operations at Weaver's Auto Center in Shawnee, Kansas. Tony's story is about change and leadership. I love to hear from service professionals that have achieved success while toughing through challenges and learning from mistakes. Tony Adams brings his very transparent story of leadership to you. You'll either relate to it, reference it, but no matter. We will all at one time or another in our careers have walked in Tony's shoes. Tony admits to what all good leaders know. Admit your mistakes, learn from them, and move forward. Never stop learning and build a fire under your team to serve the customer. Find the episode's talking points at remarkableresults.biz/E289. Hey, if you're a fan of the show, you've heard it before. If you want to be a better leader, read and spend time with this episode with Tony Adams from Weaver's Auto Center in Shawnee, Kansas. Hey, a warm welcome to Tony Adams, Vice President of all the great day-to-day operations out at Weaver's Auto Center in Shawnee, Kansas.
Good morning, Carm. Thank you.
Hey, Tony. Great. Well, I've known about you for a while. Wanted to have you on the show. Then Jeremy O'Neill walks up at the studio at Apex and says, I'd like you to meet Tony Adams. And I said, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah, Jeremy's a great connector of people, isn't he?
Oh, God, he is. He really is. And I am so glad that we connected, and now we're sitting here in the virtual studio. And, Tony, can we talk about culture, leadership, learning curves, communication?
Sure, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Do you count your mistakes as your most important learning tools?
Absolutely. I think that, Einstein talked about it. And I think lots of people have talked about it, and Thomas Edison maybe in the invention of the light bulb. It's not that I made a mistake, and in the hundreds of times that I made the light bulb, it just didn't work. And then 1001, it did work. But I think that mistakes, if we're able to just be with them and not get too enthralled in beating ourselves up, they're our greatest teacher. at the end of the day. It's some of the best lessons we could ever learn.
I've done some interviews, and I'm not sure if the discussion that I had with some of the entrepreneurs, some of the service professionals ever made it to the air. We do a little bit of editing, not a lot, and I can't remember if it was pre-call or post-interview, but the guy said to me, yeah, I probably have made a couple of $5,000 mistakes over the last, say, 10 years, and if I could only get that chance to get it back. You got any big memory of a major mistake you made?
Yeah, the biggest costly mistake that I think I've made is rushing into something. There was a business that we attempted to purchase or merge with, and jumped in and really didn't do the due diligence that I needed to do, and didn't have all the information that I needed to have, and it ended up falling apart. And then it ended up, going to court. It was an expensive. A very expensive mistake. And that has a tendency to, geez, I wish I would, I wish I could, I wish I shouldn't have, but it's a pretty great teacher of, how to do things or how not to do things, I guess, moving forward.
How do you recover from stuff like that?
Digging in deeper, being able to self-evaluate and say, what were the mistakes that I did make going through this process? What are the things that I need to do differently? How do I, keep from making that same mistake again? And just, I think the self-evaluation piece, Carm's the biggest piece, being able to say, what do I do differently next time so I don't do that again?
You're a reader.
Yes.
Latest book you just read?
Right now, I'm actually working on The Power of Vulnerability by Dr. Brene Brown. I think Jude talked about that on one of your town hall conversations. Yes. And man, holy cow, what a great book that everybody should pick up and read.
What's your biggest takeaway right now from the book?
One of the things that she talks about at the very beginning of the book is that how to doesn't work. If how to worked, we would not be the most in-debt, obese, medicated, and addicted humans to walk the face of the planet.
Oh, boy.
And it's really getting to the root cause of, especially for men, hard for us to be vulnerable, but way beyond that, everybody, and understanding that, shame triggers and things that get in the way, and overachieving and all of this stuff and garbage that keeps us from being authentic and showing up as our authentic selves. And, that quote that she used about how to doesn't work is it's so true. If how to worked, right, we just all pick up a book and read it and we'd be done. We know that we shouldn't eat some of the things that we eat, but yet we continue to do that, and all the medical problems that come along with it, right? The information's out there.
Have you gotten to the point in the book where she tells you, how to fix that? Is it greater disciplines? Is it to know the why?
I think some of it is definitely knowing the why. And I think it's about showing, and what she's talking about specifically is it's showing up and being able to be vulnerable, being able to just be who we are, to be able to admit that we're imperfect. And I think that's a big one, especially for business leaders. We're talking about the mistakes, and, I can't speak for everyone, but I know I can speak for myself that I hold myself to a pretty high standard of accountability. And when I make mistakes, like the big dollar mistake that I made, 10 years ago, man, I am my own worst enemy and my own worst critic. And the longer I keep myself down there and then have to try and build up all these walls of protection, if you will, to let everybody see that I'm perfect, man, that's a hard life to live.
So knowing how to put it behind you is important.
It's huge. Yeah, how to be able to move through it and get past it, and then recognize, and be able to openly admit, we're not perfect. We are imperfect. We are going to make mistakes. Carm, you and I put our pants on the same way, right? I'm sure you make the mistakes still, and so do I. And it's, man, really hard to get past some of those things. But, the answer is, yeah, it's a wonderful book. And so it's really being able to just be present to, I think, how you're feeling, be able to recognize when you're angry, how to show up and be authentic. So, it's pretty powerful stuff. When I'm done with it, I'm going to reread it.
Taking ownership, saying I goofed, saying I'm sorry, apologizing to me became very important lessons a little later in my life than I guess I should have accepted them. And, you said the word vulnerable. I wrote it down. I am so into the interviews, when we're doing them, and I learn from them myself. And One of the things that I know that I do for the automotive aftermarket is I get stories told. And I get stories told to help inspire people and get that wisdom shared. And, when people tell their stories of vulnerability, it helps people not only realize that it's okay to say I'm wrong, it's okay to admit ownership, but it also shows that people grow from it.
Absolutely. And it's part of the healing process, right? It doesn't really make any difference whether it's a little mistake or a big mistake, right? It just, the bigger mistakes is but being able to admit I made one. Right. That's part of the road to recovery. It's kind of like, step one of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? It's admitting that you have a problem. Okay, I admit I made a mistake. So now I can work on moving through that.
Your history, were you a technician like many other shop owners were?
No, I wasn't actually. I started in the business when I probably broke some child labor laws when I worked with my dad. He was a technician, and swept the floors and took out the trash and washed cars and those sorts of things. Took care of the parking lot and building maintenance stuff, and just kind of when I graduated high school, started taking over parts management. We have a collision repair facility and a mechanical repair facility both. So I was over parts management and collision repair, then kind of took over production management and, became general manager. And then somewhere along the line, John and I became business partners. And so I've never done the technical work on the cars. I've not been the hands-on guy, although I could go out and change spark plugs and change oil and can fix a dent in a quarter panel, could paint a car. Probably not going to be as nice a job as what our awesome staff could do, but I can go out and do it and have kept myself educated right along with them so I can at least talk their lingo.
So Weavers is both mechanical and collision.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty big place.
Yeah, it's about 21,000 square feet. We're a little over $4 million a year operation between the two sides of the business. Really, our service department's about a $900,000 a year operation. So, and really focused on trying to grow that side of the business now, is I think that's where the future of the industry is going to be. Collision repair businesses, in my humble opinion, 30 years from now is not going to be what it is today. All the technology in the cars, the sonar, the radar, the autonomous driving, they're doing things to take the human element from collisions out of the equation. The good news, I think, for service professionals is going to be it's going to take somebody to know how to program those cars and how to reprogram those cars and relearn those cars. And so that's where we're kind of focusing our efforts now.
I agree. I think the opportunities are huge for people that want to be a perpetual student and continue to learn and not shy away from any of the technology. As I always, one of my favorite quotes is, jump into the deep end of the pool, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
Get submerged. Know why you install FelPro, the gaskets professionals trust? Every part that goes into a FelPro box is validated and approved by a FelPro engineer. Product testing and validation is an integral part of FelPro's engineering, manufacturing, and field testing, where vehicles undergo tests that log over 1 million miles every year. They also reach out to you, the pro, through technology blogs and their technical forums to listen, learn, and keep in touch with you. It's amazing to think that FelPro produces over 325,000 gaskets per day. That's 325,000 per day in their 1 million square foot facility in Skokie, Illinois. Under the same roof, engineering and manufacturing uphold FelPro quality, utilizing 4,500 active production tools with tooling tolerances to 5 microns. Now that's smaller than a human hair. A tight tolerance like that ensures the sealing ability of FelPro gaskets. And their own in-house chem lab develops proprietary formulations like PermaDry Plus to produce 35,000 molded rubber sealing components every day. Plus, with FelPro, you get coverage from 1955 of 96% of all domestics and 93% of all import vehicles. So feel confident that with new engines and new technologies, FelPro will be there with innovative solutions to solve your customers' sealing problems. FelPro, the gaskets professionals trust. Go to felpro-only.com for more information. You know that 70% of professional technicians install Moog? Do you know who is best in class in engineering R&D? Do you know who holds 47 patents and has 28 dedicated engineers on staff? Yeah, Moog. You should know that 85% of Moog socket-style components are manufactured in North America, and that makes Moog best in class for manufacturing. And since 1966, every NASCAR championship has been won on Moog parts. But you knew that. I know why you install Moog. They solve your problems. Over the years, Moog has provided problem-solving innovations like a patented pressed-in cover plate, powdered metal gusher bearing technology, compression-loaded ball joints with a pre-installed integral dust boot, and vertical control arm bushings. You know why you install Moog. Enhanced durability, improved performance, and ease of installation. For more information, go to moogparts.com. Now you know. Hey, so not a technician, a business owner, leader, a major transformation to be a good leader. Got any great stories?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I grew up in an environment that, that my business partner was from the old age of management. I jump, you say, how high? You're here for me, not the other way around. And it was when I really started working with a business coach and understanding that manager and leader had two different meanings. They weren't the same thing, although we sometimes mistakenly interchange those two words, not really knowing it. But, we were in a spot where we had just moved into this new facility and we were really kind of struggling with business. And a friend of mine pushed me into calling a business coach. And I started reading and like, wow, I've been at this the complete wrong way. and so, I've been out, bossing and telling people what to do and not really opening up and inviting collaboration and really forced me to be a leader instead of a manager. Although sometimes I'm both, because I think sometimes you do have to manage things, but more often than not, I try to just lead my people and understand and just learning and reading. That's right how I got there.
You delegated. I mean, what was one of the big things that happened? Because in so many leadership capabilities, if you're a manager, sometimes you're a micromanager. You're telling people what to do at all times. You never accept the work that they do. It's never good enough for you. Got to learn how to pull back. Was that part of it?
Yeah, I think it was part of it. One of the very first books that I read was 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey, trying to learn and identify that I was taking on my people's responsibilities. I think there's three types of managers. There's the do-for manager. And it's the one who comes in and does everything for everybody. And we think they're being helpful, right? We really think we're protecting our people. Let me do that work for you. Let me stay late for you, right? Let me protect you. I'll take on all of that burden. At some point in time, and I know it's different for everybody who's in that do-for cycle, they get mad and they become the next type of manager, which is a do-to manager, right? It's here. I'm not doing this anymore. You do it. You do your own job. I'm not working late anymore. I'm not taking on these responsibilities or what they, talked about in that book, the monkeys of other people. And we become a do-to manager. And, shortly after we do to somebody in that way, Carm, I really believe that we start to feel bad. It's like, man, I shouldn't have went off like that. I shouldn't have talked to them like that. So we start the cycle back over and we start doing for again. And we stay on this perpetual hamster wheel, right? Do to, do for, do to, do for, do to, do for, do to, do for, do to. And, I think it really takes a different mindset, and that's to be the do with. Let me do this with you. Let me make sure that you have everything that you need, and being able to get comfortable saying, if I have to do this for you, we have a problem, right? And I don't need somebody. And being able to say that from a just matter of fact, non-threatening, heart of peace place, and be able to put the responsibilities back where they go. And I think some of it's just we aren't aware that we're in that do for, do to cycle, Carm. And I think it gets us in trouble.
It was a big book for you.
Oh, it was a huge book for me. It was the very first book my coach had me read. The book kind of opens up and talking about a manager that's sitting in his office with big glass windows, and he looks outside his window and he sees all of his employees playing golf while he's in there working on a Saturday morning. And I kid you not, the only difference between me and that guy is there wasn't a golf course on my Saturday morning, which was actually when I was in there reading the book and doing work. And it was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this. Like this book was written about me, for me, and really spoke volumes to what I needed to do differently. And it was the first step in understanding that it wasn't my job to do the work. And that was part of the transition. I didn't get hired in to be a business owner. I didn't go to a 4-year college or an Ivy League college and take lots of management and business course degrees to learn how to be a manager. Right? I kind of progressed my way up through the ranks, and even though it wasn't from the technical side, it was still from a doing side, whether it was writing estimates or production management or parts management. And so what I did was, do. And when I got into that role and that position, I never really understood that it wasn't my job to do anymore. It was really to lead. It was to, set the vision of the company and to, make sure we create a culture and, the financial responsibility to the shareholders and the things like that. So to read that book and go, oh, wait a minute, that's me. I'm micromanaging and I'm taking on everybody's responsibilities. And then, you start thinking about some of those things from a human side and how we really dehumanize and devalue our employees when we start taking on their responsibilities.
Tony, as a do guy, did you just feel stressed to the max?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's not good either, right? Stress releases cortisol in the system and it creates all kinds of negative side effects, from a health perspective. And I've experienced some of those side effects from the stress perspective. But yes, yeah, you feel it. Yeah, it's not good. I couldn't go home and be a good dad. I couldn't go home and be a good husband because I'm not Tony the father or Tony the husband or Tony the business owner. I'm just Tony.
Is it possible because your communication style is a high dominant?
Oh, holy cow! Yeah, Once we started using assessments and really getting into, we use an assessment. It measures, behaviors. It's a DISC tool. It talks about motivators.
By the way, we've talked about it on the show. We actually did an entire academy on behavior styles. We talked about DISC, which is why I brought it up because I know you actually use it inside the company, so we can kind of relate to that academy. I'm sure my listeners will go back and say, "Hey, let me go learn what Tony's talking about."
Yeah, so I'm a 98 dominant style, and I'm an 04 influential for all those people that know anything about DISC. So I am aggressively critical. So being able to know and understand that about myself allowed me to have better communication with my people too. And so being in that do for, do to cycle, and then that behavioral style come out that I really didn't understand about myself either. Holy cow! It must have been brutal to work.
There's an awful lot of people who aren't high dominant Ds. They just can't get along with you.
Yeah, it's absolutely. So, it helped me with, communication and understanding that about myself so I could adapt my communication style and know that people who are directly opposite of me, which are the really high steady styles, man, if I want to have really good communication with those people, I can't come in guns blazing and in the brain, out the mouth. I can with other high dominant styles. They actually appreciate it because I get to the point and I'm quick and I say what I need to say and, out we go. But man, I really shut people down when, you try and do a one size fits all of communication with everybody.
Yeah. I like that guy, Tony. I can really, boy, man, he's a cool guy. But anyone else says,
no way. He's a jerk.
Can't handle that guy at all. Never want to sit down in his office.
Yeah. It was fun learning about myself from that perspective. It doesn't change who I am, and my communication style is still the same. It's just a level of awareness now to know that I most certainly can rub people the wrong way.
So you learned all this. You read books. You strive to be a better leader. Where did the change of culture and putting the culture in place, when did that really start taking shape?
Some of the stuff, in books that we were reading, like the New Gold Standard, the Ritz-Carlton Experience, we're reading Raving Fans and Gung Ho and books like, Tony Zappo's Delivering Happiness. I mean, a lot of books on culture. And I really started kind of looking at my culture and going, I have a culture that's dependent on me and I don't want to be here for forever. And I, could get run over by a bus tomorrow and what would my employees be left with? And so it really kind of said, what do I want the culture of the business to be? We didn't really have a vision. I didn't know really what a vision was, didn't really have a mission statement, really didn't talk about core values. And so I started kind of figuring out, why am I here and why are we here? And, beyond fixing cars, that's just a product of what we do. That's not really a why piece to that whatsoever. And so, as I started, when I hired my coach and kind of hit rock bottom, I guess, if you will, and was miserable and not making any money and, huge losses and things that I had never really kind of felt with before, and started going through that learning and self-discovery phase, it was like, oh, well, here's why I'm doing everything, because I've never really set clear expectations and accountability for my people. My people aren't engaging because I don't allow them to engage. They're not engaged because everybody wants to be part of something bigger and nobody wants to just fix cars for a living, right? We have to start connecting the dots of how fixing cars connects to the greater good of society. And so it was just kind of and we're still not there, Carm, by any means. I don't think it's something you check off on your to-do list and say, culture's fixed, right? It's a continued evolution. But, for me, that's how we started really digging in and working on culture.
People love to belong to an organization that is beyond, like what you said, fixing cars. Culture inside your business really has a positive effect on the customer?
Yeah, absolutely. We're an employee-first organization. Two things that I really pay attention to. One is employee engagement. I'm a firm believer that in our organization, it's employees first. It's not the customer first. It's employees first. If my employees are engaged, they're happy, they're taken care of, they're healthy, their needs are being met, then they're going to be in a better position to do the second most important thing to me, which is customer engagement. And if my customers are truly connected and engaged and are tied to our business, and, we had people that come in and say, man, the best thing that ever happened to me is crashing my car. Like, really? That's wonderful to hear. You've reached a level of engagement with your customers. And I think those two things are the business separators.
Why would they say that? Because they're comfortable at Weavers?
Yes, because we make them feel comfortable, and it's about transparency here. And, most shops have big signs up on the doors that say, stop, insurance regulations say nobody is allowed behind this door. We say, you want a tour? Come through. Take a look at what happens behind the Wizard of Oz curtain. We want transparency. We want you to be involved. We want you to see what we're doing here. And we genuinely take the time to get to know our customers. Tell us about you. This isn't Mrs. Smith's, red Accord. This is Mrs. Smith. And Mrs. Smith is a nurse. She delivers to babies. We're making sure that she can get back to her life as quickly as possible and she can go do her jobs.
Everybody has a story.
That's the key. I mean, you look at all the great, I think part of the learning for all of us is we have to get outside, our wheelhouse of learning, because we get really kind of tunnel focused into, we fix cars. But you look at the companies who have been, really, really successful. Southwest Airlines, Apple, Zappos, Lululemon. We could go on and on and on about the list. There's one thing that all those companies have in common. And as they connect, they have really good stories with their customers. They have a purpose, it's, and they're able to, they don't have to compete at this low level, right? Where most organizations are competing on the 4 Ps of marketing, right? The product, placement, price, promotion. So, none of those things are really truly business separators. It's the 5th P, people. Right, our employees. If we have a healthy culture, we're going to have healthy customers.
Bingo. Love it. Love what you're saying. Great stuff. Is there a solution to the technician shortage?
Yeah, we got to train them. Right, we've got to start getting out in front of schools. We've got to get in front of Votex. We have to start making this an exciting career for them. Yeah. So, in our shop, all of our guys are hourly. We don't have any commissioned technicians because a commissioned shop doesn't breed an environment of teamwork or an environment of training. Not to say you can't get it done, but at some point in time, we as shops are going to have to stop complaining about the technician shortage and start getting involved with our Votex. And there's guys that, think about somebody that we had an employee that we hired that, literally he came from, flipping hamburgers at Wendy's. and we brought him in here actually on the body shop side. And he was, a couple of days in, we teach him how to grind welds on a bedside, and he's laying on his back. You have to picture this image, right? He's laying on his back. He has a welding blanket draped around him like a Superman cape, and another welding blanket laced over the top of him. And he's yelling at the top of his lungs, "This is the best job I've ever had in my life." And it's like, we're all like, really? That's cool. But the reality is there's people out there that truly want to work. The mindset shift, I think, that has to happen is we're all looking for somebody that we can just go plug and play. We want that 30-year veteran A technician, and they already have jobs.
We're done with that, and I think you're right. We've got to step up to the plate. And I love to hear your story. I love to hear the energy from the young man who totally fell in love with his job.
Yeah,
and spoke it from the highest mountain, if you will.
Yes, absolutely.
Must be a testament to the culture in your business, to the team environment that you've created, to the fact that he sees happy customers as a result of his job. Mm-hmm. And we have to do more and more and more and more and more of this. It's almost like the new reality is grow your own, but we still have to do what you said. Get involved in the trade schools, talk to the PTO, yes, the parent-teacher groups. There's still, the grassroots can't go away. We have to build that.
Yeah, we have to build on it, and we just have to start shifting our mindset around how we going to bring these people in, right? The plug and play guy's not there, so we're going to have to pair them up with a senior technician. We have to start thinking about career paths in our shop. It's stuff that we never thought about before, right? We've got Chad, who's a really super awesome diagnostic technician, and it took him a long time to get there. So it's going to take a long time for one of these apprentices to get there. So what's the career path to take a guy from flipping burgers at Wendy's, if you will, to a diagnostician? That takes time.
It reminds me of almost having to rethink our cost structure in our companies. I need an A. Well, you need an A because maybe you didn't grow one. Maybe there's no one in the ranks. And okay, maybe the B Tech is ready to be an A because you lost your A. And I get all that. But sometimes we stop and we think, I really don't want to spend the money to bring someone on, to train someone.
Yep. You
train him, and then I'll hire him. But that's going away. That strategy's going away.
Yeah, there's less and less, right? It's not just our industry. It's it's the truck driving industry. I mean, they're right. All of these kind of technical, hands-on type of jobs. I mean, who would have thought that the trucking industry? I see ads all the time on TV, like it's college tuition reimbursement. Come drive trucks for us. Their strategies of attaining people to come do that have drastically shifted over the last 10 years, and ours really hasn't yet. I would see a point in the time, Carm, where, like my Chad and my business, the value that he provides to this organization is going to be less and less dependent on the hands, right? And actually physically touching. And the value is going to be on his ability to lead a group of technicians and be the brains behind it while they are the hands on a car. And I think that's some of the shifts that are going to have to start happening to grow these guys.
Wow. Pocket protectors rule.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what it's going to be. I think, it's going to be the same thing for us on the collision side. Our A technicians that we have now, we have the same crisis on that side of the industry as we do the mechanical side of the industry. It's, those guys that are really proficient and know how to do it, their value is going to be less and less on the actual production and more on their ability to lead a cell or a group of kids.
You charging for diagnostic time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, level 1 testing, level 2 testing, level 3 testing, different rate. Level 1 stuff for the common, easy to figure out. Level 2 stuff, a little deeper. Level 3's it only happens on Thursdays when it's snowing outside, and I turn right. Kind of scenarios that we have to figure out. So yes,
I interviewed Dutch Silverstein, and he said, "Operate with integrity, or just don't bother to operate at all." You agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. There was actually a story of Dan Cathy from Chick-fil-A that he came out to do a keynote presentation to a group of coffee makers. That was kind of what his keynote was. Said, if you're going to make a good cup of coffee, make a good cup of coffee. If you're going to make a bad cup of coffee, make a bad cup of coffee. But whatever you do, be consistent. And he turned around and walked off the stage. It was his keynote speech. And I think it goes along with what you're saying, right? I think we have to have a level of integrity in our business, and we have to be consistent about the level of service that we're going to deliver at the end of the day.
Will that crash through the terrible image that we have?
I think it will eventually. It's not going to get done overnight, but I think it will. I think so many shops operate on this scarcity mentality, right? And it's, this is the last time I'm ever going to see this customer. So I've got to get all $3,000 worth of work today. And, I've told my team, like, I will fire you on the spot if I see you doing that to a customer and you're high-fiving in the back lot for that. That's not who our business is going to be. We know the potential lifetime value of a customer for us. If we get you when you're 16 years old and we're able to keep you until you're 75, but on both the collision and the mechanical repair side, we know that one customer without referrals, without inflation, if we had that entire life cycle, is $87,500. That's what I want. I don't want $3,000 today. I want $87,500 over the course of the next 60 years. I want a relationship with you. And I think if we can shift out of that scarcity mentality of trying to get everything today and say, listen, Carm, here's what you need to do today. And here's what we need to do next week. And you know what? You got a timing belt repair coming up in 6 months. You need to start budgeting for that, right? Start putting some money away. What we need to do today is what you came in here for. Because that's what you planned on doing. And, I'll never forget, we were, probably like a lot of shops, and I don't know, right? I've been kind of learning my way through this mechanical repair business because most of my background's been into collision repair. And we had a lady sitting up front, and, we had the special little fluid tray, and right, you got the clean transmission fluid and the dirty transmission fluid. And then the service advisor goes up to this lady who's sitting all by herself in the office and says, hey, here's your fluid tray. Everything looks really good except for your transmission fluid. I know you're in here for an oil change today, but we can get that taken care of for you today if you'd like. And it's only blah, blah, blah in dollars and cents. And I wish I had this on video, but the lady's expression, you could see, what was going on in her prefrontal cortex. It was fight or flight, right? She was like, oh, she's like, she's drawing in, and she's like, do I have to do that today? It's like, well, no, you don't have to, but from a convenience standpoint, we can sure get that done for you today. And she said, no, I don't want to do that today. And that was the last time we did that. It was such a, I don't know what the technical term is. And the term I use with my staff when we talk about that story is it felt icky. It was like we forced our customer into a position where they had to tell us no. And I said, we're not ever going to do that again. So now the process is you come in for an oil change. That's what you're getting. And then we're going to review what you need to do today and tomorrow, because I'm not living on a scarcity mentality. There's plenty of work out there. If we just educate people, here's what you need to do. We want to protect your investment and keep you going for 300,000 miles. If that's what you want to do, Carm, you need to service your transmission fluid. It can wait until next month. Heck, it can wait until the next oil change if you want, and we can get that done. The only exception to that, of course, is if there's some sort of safety issue. You got a wheel about to fall off. We're going to march you out in the shop and say, see this side that's good and see this side that's really loose. They shouldn't be like that. So, but I think it just goes away from getting away from that. If you can move away from the scarcity mentality and just take time and build a connection with the customer, educate them about what their car needs, and then walk them through a plan to help them budget for it. Because even if the lady would have bought that transmission service, she would have went home with buyer's remorse. Because what she planned on spending today was, $38.95 for an oil change. It wasn't $180 or whatever it would have been. It wasn't in her plan. It wasn't in her budget. I think we have to be careful of how we force those things onto customers.
I think the budget is also key. When I interviewed Dutch, he showed me this incredible chart about what people have in their savings account. And the vast majority of Americans don't have the kind of money that is necessary to function in life. And so they make those decisions every step of the way in every interaction in their life based on available funds. One of the things that I got from Dutch that I heard you say, customers for life, he was talking about. And I don't mean to talk about Dutch, but it was just a great interview. People got to go back and listen to Dutch Silverstein's interview, as well as they must listen to this. Tony, you're bringing up some great points. So here's the thing. Here's what I thought, and I'm a conceptual guy, kind of like you, and I thought that on every computer terminal, on a plaque in the employee break room, in the office, there's a big sign that says "Customers for Life."
For life. Mm-hmm.
That should be the culture of any service business today, and it guides every decision you make.
Absolutely, it does. And it guides all of our technicians' decisions. They know the lifetime value of a customer, $87,500. You know what? We're just going to take care of this today. We'll catch you next time. As every decision that we make is based on the lifetime value of that customer. And Customers for Life is a great book, by the way, too. Carl Sewell's book. I don't know if you've ever read that or not.
I have never read it. What's so amazing about being in this position that I'm in the industry, I'm bringing the voices of the industry to the aftermarket, is there's only 50 books that I have to read. I've been a great reader my whole life. I've got a shelf full. I probably have 150 books, business books that I've read, and I've got my faves. But boy, it's just amazing and very impressed of the service professionals out there that have learned to be a good leader because they became a reader. And it is something that any successful businessman in any industry must do. If you could send a message to yourself, your 10-year-ago self, what would it be?
Slow down, pause, to take a breath. Not every decision is a life-threatening decision. Not every decision needs to be made right this minute. That would be it. That would be my message. Sometimes I think, I know definitely in my earlier days, and I still make that mistake from time to time now, Carm, is got to pause, just breathe. Stephen Covey talked about it in one of his books, right? That the word responsibility, right? You hyphenate that out. It's responsibility. It's our ability to respond to a situation. But that's what I would have told my 10-year-ago younger self. Slow down.
Tony Adams, Vice President, Weaver's Auto, Shawnee, Kansas. Great words of wisdom. Anything else to share, top of mind stuff that we can pick from your thoughts?
Yeah, you know what? Just you talked about the reading piece. Keep reading. Our brains are a muscle, and they will atrophy like every other muscle in our body once we stop using it. And it's the best source of learning for our brains.
Thanks for being on the show, man.
All right, Carm. Thank you very much.
Culture and leadership helped transform a good company into a great one. Thank you, Tony Adams, for an inspiring episode demonstrating that leadership is learned. Find the episode talking points at remarkableresults.biz/E289. And thank you for joining us and your support of the Aftermarket's premier podcast. I know you're finding a treasure trove of learning opportunities and wisdom in the podcast archives that include the individual interviews and the Town Hall Academy single subject forums. Now, the website is packed with so many ways to find a topic of interest. Now, if you have any questions or comments, or like me to recommend a few episodes to you, email me at carm@remarkableresults.biz or head over to the contact page on the website. Your learning curve never sounded so good.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time,